everyone, and here we are again at this time of year when we're talking about different things that we should be doing, could be doing, or maybe might be doing. And are we doing them right? Are we doing them for the right reasons? Are we actually doing any good for ourselves? So the title of this one is Karma Christmas, Christmas Karma, the Christmas that we deserve. That's a really interesting concept. So we're going to be talking about it. But as you can see, we've got a couple of people, one of whom hasn't been for a while, dear, and another new person. So this is great. So we're going to put Aideen right on the spot and say, hello, who are you and what do you do?
Hello, I'm Aideen Ni Riada. I'm Irish, but now living in Michigan. And what I do is I help people to uncover the mental, emotional, and spiritual blocks to being seen and heard. I work as a voice mentor and a singing teacher, and I teach mantra meditation.
Brilliant. Mary.
I am a coach of a different variety. I take people who are really busy, who may be in a new job, maybe got promoted, and I help them find, and they might be struggling. And so I support them to get in the flow and really get stuck into their role and be the best they could possibly be.
Wonderful. Willie.
Good evening. My name is Willie Nicol, and I'm a life change coach. Former police officer, corporate security manager, and I stumbled into coaching after being made redundant. So essentially, I help people change their lives for the better. So I help them to be better, do better, become unstuck, and achieving the results they want. Earlier today, I was at a networking event where I did a spotlight presentation for 10 minutes on that very topic. It's recorded, so I may post it. But essentially, I work with people to help them become unstuck, achieve the results they want, and have a happier life.
Groovy. Tanys.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hear about the stuff.
The stuff. So I do stuff. I'm a Reiki practitioner and a crystal practitioner and a Celtic shamanic high priestess, and I'm a coach as well and a channel. So I help people to move along on their spiritual journey and teach them how to manage their personal energy.
Brilliant. All right, Angela, on you go.
So I do stuff to help people with stuff. Is that enough? No.
It could be.
I'm a kinesiologist and a hypnotherapist and a coach, and I work with people with whatever's going on in their lives just to help them see what they want from life better and then work towards getting it. So whether that's overwhelm and stress and anxiety, or it's aches and pains and not sleeping well, I can work with a whole range of different things. But at the moment, I'm mainly focusing on people with that overwhelm, that stress, and that little creeping in of imposter syndrome and emotions not doing what you're expecting to do.
And I'm Leslie Marsh, and I knock the stuffing out of stuff. Or I will stuff even more stuff into the stuff where the stuff should be or not be, depending on what's in front of me. That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff.
But basically, and I'm going to put I'm going to use my alliteration here now. I use a myriad of modalities in order to make your life better.
More manageable. There you go. That would be more M's.
I could always depend on Angela to help me out with these things because my brain sometimes just is full of stuff. And it gets very, very full. So, karma, Christmas, what do we deserve? Now, interestingly enough, Angela and I were having a chat earlier on, yesterday, I think it was last night, something. And Angela had gone into the dictionary and found what?
I found quite a lot. Yes. One of the examples, well, it said that karma was either a noun or a proper noun, and the proper noun concept of it was all around the Wiccan religion, and whether you put out things that are positive or negative, you get it back threefold.
I'm finding that really, really interesting, since Dharma and karma are like Hindu and Buddhist terms. Where the Wiccan part comes in, I'm not entirely sure. I think somebody's...
Well, it came in on the dictionary definition that I found.
Yeah, I think we're getting a bit of cultural appropriation there, and I really wanted to say that tonight, so that's why I got to do that.
that. So I've set you up there perfectly,
Yes.
did I?
Yes, I set you up, to set me up, definitely.
Thanks.
So basically, I wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong. So an individual's duty fulfilled by observance in custom or law is dharma. So basically, the basic principles of the cosmos and the individual's existence is a divine law in conformity to one's duty or nature. That's dharma. Karma basically is the universe telling you when you are not on the straight path of your dharma. But it also has got to do with all the lives. It's the sum of all a person's actions through all of their lives, past and present. So basically, you're kind of in a pickle if you did something and went off the path on a tangent with your dharma way, way back, because you'll still be dealing with it now.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, when we talk about Christmas, I just think about when I was little and wanting something for Christmas and not getting what I wanted for Christmas. So I guess that was my karma because I wasn't doing my dharma. But we think that phrase deserving is very important, I think, because when I asked my meditation teacher who studied Vedic philosophy, did I have to deserve things in life? She said, it's better to look at it this way. You reap what you sow. Do good, good happens. And so I took my focus off this feeling of, do I deserve it or not? Which I feel was a life-changing attitude shift. And then instead, reaping what you sow made me take more action. Probably some of it was part of my dharma action. And I realized that that was a kind of an effort that I needed to make in order to have the good things come my way.
Yeah, it's interesting because I like splitting words up occasionally, and I was just thinking to myself there, deserve, deserve. So you're not serving something. Now, that can roll into karma and dharma quite nicely. If you're not serving your purpose, you're deserving. So you're not deserving of something, which basically brings it back round in a circle.
You've just melted my brain, thanks.
Yeah, I just melted my own brain. It was wonderful. It's great. But it really is interesting because it's one of those things that word is really semantically packed, because when we think of it, how do we judge what we deserve or what someone else deserves at a time when they're supposed to be serving? Supposedly. Mary.
Well, you see, I get confused. I'm a very simple creature. And when I get to the point of thinking about the Christmas I deserve or the Christmas I want or the one I desire, I just keep it simple. I just want it nice. I just want people to be nice to each other and kind and compassionate. And I don't want to be hung up on last year's arguments. So I'll bring in this right back to the practicalities. You know, when lots of people talk about getting the Christmas they deserve, I think they're going to be way more practical and be talking about, you know, do I have to sit beside the drunken uncle or the paranoid aunt or whoever, and how do I avoid it? So I think sometimes that when we start talking and playing with the words, it is important to remember an awful lot of this Christmas is the anticipation that we have from now, you know, in that whole time from, you know, nowadays from Halloween till Christmas, of anticipation of what we expect to happen. It's all in our heads.
So basically what you're talking about is the manifestation of what you are thinking about and what you're fearing and what, you know, so bringing it right back into familial ties.
Stuff is that bringing that manifesting it in your head, manifesting all the stuff and thinking about all the stuff we don't want, kind of thing that helps us get it.
Yeah, I start actually getting really grumpy about it around about September when I start seeing the shelves getting filled in the supermarkets with all the stuff for it, because it just really, you know. But then again, the way that I would get out of it before was I always worked that holiday. and basically in a kennel with a dog, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think we all find solutions, all right. But I do think, the whole idea of whether we deserve it or not, I don't tend to get too caught up on. It's actually, what do I want? What do I actually want? And then I go for it. And so I get much more focused on what would I like to happen, rather than my fears of what happened last year or the year before or the 20 years before that. Because to me, that gets nowhere. It leaves you stuck. It goes back to this idea of staying stuck in old patterns, routines. And Christmas, because it's so wound up in tradition,
Yeah.
the old patterns keep coming back in. So you kind of have to, like as Aideen was saying earlier, actually taking that little action, say, okay, actually, I'm choosing, I want it different. How am I going to make that happen? I think it can create a complete shift in the Christmas you end up having.
I think there's a difference as well in across the water, across the pond, how you guys look at the Christmas thing. Because you tend to have the Christmas Eve and the Christmas morning, but it's not quite the same as here when there's, the whole kind of, because you do that on Thanksgiving, don't you? The whole sitting around the turkey kind of, replete and snoring into an armchair somewhere.
I think we do it both.
That's just greedy, Janice. That's just
Why do it once when you can do it as many times as you like, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Listen, there's a guy who does it every day of the year, which is, to be perfectly honest with you, why we have to kind of just have this idea that this only happens at this time of year is, to me, surely it should be happening all the time. Obviously not the tinsel and the whole thing, but and you can't have too many Brussels sprouts. But the whole ethos of the idea of being nice to one another, being kind to one another, that is karma.
Yeah.
That is about karma, being nice and being kind, and having the idea that, one hand washes the other one. Giving someone a hand up is just as good on last weekend of July as it is on the 25th of December.
But Leslie, you cannot like your relatives 364 days a year, and you mightn't get on with them, but on Christmas Day it's all going to be perfect and you'll all like each other for one day.
Really?
But we will pretend to.
Or we will pretend to.
Yeah, it's like a Barney. It's a Barney speed in my house on Christmas Day. It used to be anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I left.
But
I think it's a kind of it's a feeling thing. Do you feel it? I mean, I spent 31 years in the police and spent many Christmas days not at home, in unpleasant circumstances, dealing with drunken people, fighting, and standing knee deep in a puddle directing traffic around a car crash. So that kind of knocked the Christmas spirit out of me. My wife berates me for not being more Christmassy. I do try, but I really couldn't give a shit, to be fair. But I do try to be pleasant to people and make other people happy. And being a man of a certain age, I recall a Christmas song by a guy called Greg Lake.
Yeah.
I Believe in Father Christmas. The very last line of which is, the Christmas we get, we deserve. So you'll get the Christmas you deserve. So if you've been an old, I don't know, humbug like me, I'll get the Christmas I deserve. And I think they can extrapolate that across, not just for Christmas. You get what you deserve. And if you don't deserve to have nice things, that's because you've not been a nice person or whatever. So I had to Google that there while I was talking. Thought, was that Greg Lake in 1975? Before all you ladies, maybe with no disrespect, Leslie, your exception,
Yes,
were here.
Yeah.
Right,
Angela's definitely on the woohoo.
I wasn't on the planet back then.
Unfortunately, though, it does come round every single year, like everything else. It just.
I do know the song that you're talking about. I wouldn't have been able to tell you who sang it, but yes, I am aware of the song.
Yeah, from Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Oh, well done, you who were a very famous progressive rock group in the early 70s.
Oh,
And this
yes.
was a kind of aberration. Greg Lake was a very talented man, and apparently he wrote the song as a protest against the commercialization of Christmas,
Yep.
rather than as a Christmas song. But it turned into a Christmas song, and I think he made a lot of money out of it. But anyway,
Yeah, the royalties on Christmas hits are phenomenal. So for those who have those wonderful ones that get played every year. So
Well, you see, they said something nice and their karma brought it back round again for them. Paid them well. It's amazing the kind of thing that you can get at the back end of an elephant. You hear Greg Lake every day in December.
That must be what you deserve, Leslie.
Well, yeah, you see, I love being with elephants. I don't mind. It's nice and warm on a cold day.
I think Christmas as well, for me, there is this element of receiving and giving. And as children, we see it more as being on the receiving end. And there's often a matronly figure or a mother or a granny or someone who's doing a lot of the giving. And it takes a while to realize that someone else is actually not receiving at all that day. You know, they make it very special for others. So I know that could relate to the words dharma, the mother serving, and karma. But there's definitely a shift in your understanding as we get older as to what each person can play and how we can be in relation to others. Are we generous in the way that we are, and or are we expecting something that we shouldn't maybe expect?
Well, and expectations brings up another thing. I mean, that's how we get disappointed with situations, right? When we go in with expectations. And so I think that's one thing about Christmas. People tend to have a lot of high expectations around family, around the receiving piece and all of that stuff. And so it sets you up for disappointment. Whereas if you go in not expecting,
Hoping, maybe?
perhaps hoping is good, but expecting is that little step further, and it sets you up for the disappointment of it if you don't. So if we can go to hoping instead of expecting, then we can be more thankful for whatever comes in, and that creates a nicer energy.
I think there's also the piece of it as well as the receiving and the giving. So yes, as kids, we love to receive, yeah. I actually prefer to see everybody else's faces as to what I've got for them. I'm not that bothered about what I get back. It's more about, have I hit the nail on the head? And I get quite a lot of satisfaction from, oh, wow, I wanted that. I really needed this. Or how did you know I wanted one? And I think it depends on everyone's perception and what their expectations are. So my expectation is that hopefully I've hit the nail on the head and got the gifts that people are wanting and needing and liking. And that's usually enough for me. I mean, my brother likes to play pranks on me. And I think there was one year that he wrapped up a packet of crisps and completely wrapped up and then completely covered it in sellotape and then completely covered it in duct tape. And that was my part of my Christmas gift, but he put it across as if it was my only Christmas gift. And I'm like, how on earth did I even get into it to find out what it is? So yeah,
like the flavor.
I did. It was quite thankful I did when I finally got in
You
it.
did better than me, Angela. My sister, she found a bag with Santa, like a plastic bag, like a little plastic bag from a shop with a Santa on it, and put it in a big box and wrapped it. And I don't know, I was so hopeful for books. Maybe I was expecting to receive books every Christmas. And so I thought maybe there's a book in there. But anyway, there wasn't even anything edible, but yeah. Disappointment teaches you something though, doesn't it? It kind of does help you stop expecting, and yes. But not everybody gets the Christmas they deserve, I think. How could you say that when people are living in poverty and the people are living in war-torn age? I think that's a simplistic phrase that we need to be a little careful of in this conversation.
Yeah. That was kind of where we were going. I was going to say that Willie and I probably remember, I don't know if you will remember, Mary, getting basically what you got was a tangerine and a sock.
I had a mother who that was what she wanted us to get, but I was fortunate that my father didn't quite comply.
We used to
Love
get a copy of, it was either the Bruins or Ur Willie.
It still alternates every year.
Still alternates every year, but you know, they're a little bit not how we remember them, I think. And usually a pencil case for school because you were going back to school shortly. And anybody who has a birthday anywhere near Christmas, well, you're stuffed.
Well, I'm unfortunate so far as my stepdaughter, her birthday's on Boxing Day.
So is my brother.
So it's a double whammy for her. So we've got to think of something to get her for Christmas and then think of a birthday present, which has been rather challenging.
Well, you're just so generous because in our house it's a case of your birthday's on the 17th of January. You can just get one present and that's it.
I recall when she was younger, when I was a child, standing in a queue in Toys R Us. You know, you see one of these movies where you're fighting for the last doll or
Yes.
whatever the hell it happened to be, thinking, why am I doing this? And then, as usual, play with the cardboard box and forget the doll. This the expectation thing. I agree with Angela. There's no phrase, it's better to give than receive. I really don't care what I get because I've had, you name it, like socks, and books, and bottles of whiskey, and you name it. So I'm not really too bothered. But I do like when you get it right and they open it up and go, oh, wow. I thought, thank goodness, right? The weight of relief, oh, yeah. Yeah, they could maybe make it up, but you can tell the genuine delight when you've actually got them something they wanted. And that, for me, far outweighs what am I getting? What am I getting? I don't care. As long as they're happy, that makes me happy. And if that sounds a bit soft and fluffy, I don't care.
But the other side of that is that sometimes, and Aideen, I know it's very much something that happens a lot in Ireland. You shouldn't have. Oh, you shouldn't have. That's too much. They are phrases as if, and somehow you're knocking down, somebody has gifted you something. And you're then, oh my God, did they spend more on me than I spent on them?
It happens here as well. But it's,
Yeah.
it's a very Sheldon-esque type referencing the Big Bang Theory here, in that
Yeah.
he doesn't like receiving gifts because then he has to think of the appropriate response and it has to be equal.
But, you know, there is an awful insult in you shouldn't have as a language to somebody when they've given you a gift. There is only one right answer. Thank you.
Yes. But
That
actually,
is the only response that's okay.
the interesting thing about that is also what you're doing is you're demeaning yourself. The person who says you shouldn't have is demeaning themselves, because that means that they say, I'm not worthy of this.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, where a lot of pressure comes around in this time of year. I mean, the rate of suicides and attempted suicides and talking to the Samaritans and other bodies like that are so high at this time of year, partly because of the manifestation of the expectations, the pressure of them. I have to be this way. I have to be feeling good because this is what everybody wants me to be. But if you're feeling really, really bad and sad inside, it's so hard to go out and just be frivolous and eat turkey and laugh at people's jokes when you can't actually listen to them because you can't hear them.
Well, I was in the store today with my wife and she said, will we buy the Christmas pajamas today? Right, because on Christmas Day, she and her daughter, my stepdaughter, dress up in Christmas pajamas and they get matching pairs with Rudolph or something on, right? It's a wee tradition. And
do you partake?
Well, I so far I've refused, but I succumbed and I've got a kind of nice. I don't wear pajamas; far too much information. Anyway, on Christmas Day I wore these stripy pajamas and socks and your slippers, so that you don't care as long as you're comfortable, having a laugh, a small sherry or two, right, while the turkey's doing what it's doing or whatever. That's what it's all about. It's having fun. It's enjoying yourself and not put too much pressure on yourself. You know, I must have this, I must have that. I need the extra cranberry sauce or something. Well, if you've not got it, who cares, right? I think there's an awful lot of pressure, and I say this as the male of the species, an awful lot of pressure on the ladies, to come up with the perfect turkey or whatever the hell it happens to be. Now we've got to a point where if the turkey's burnt, it's burnt. If that doesn't work, it doesn't work. If your souffle doesn't rise, too bad. And that's taking the pressure off. I think it's one of the biggest gifts you can have at Christmas. Is don't fret, don't get
Yeah,
ready.
takeaway. It's much easier.
Oh,
Hey, well,
I used to
funny you
love
should say
that.
that.
I used to
Funny
love
you should
that.
say that.
A madras and a big party can of Foster's just to myself.
My
On my
brother-in-law
own.
who doesn't do Christmas, right? It was his turn to do Christmas one year, and we had a Chinese takeaway. Christmas Day, he ordered it. We drove down and picked up Chinese takeaway because he doesn't do cooking and he can't be arsed and he doesn't like turkey. You know what? It's great.
To tell you the truth, Charles Dickens.
Because you
has a
probably
lot
all
of
got
different-
exactly what you wanted. You didn't all have to eat
Yeah.
the same meal.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that I tend to boycott turkey. I don't think I've done turkey for a Christmas dinner in the last 10 years at least.
No, yeah.
But then having an Indian family, it does predominantly tend to be curry, which is great.
Oh,
That curry turkey.
The
No,
idea,
no, veggie, unfortunately, but yeah, curry.
the idea that you wouldn't have home cooking at Christmas would be my idea of hell.
Well,
But
it's
I'm
either
not
takeaway
trying.
curry or home cooked curry, but it's curry.
that bit doesn't bother me. Yeah, but yeah, it is amazing how I find it quite fascinating how in the last, I would say, 10 years, how much as a shift has happened of people developing their own traditions that work for them and not giving a damn what historical
pressure
tradition
off.
was. It's way less pressure.
Mhm. Last year, I
But
think
we now
anything
know
that's-
that Leslie wants a can of Foster's for a Christmas.
Yeah, so that's our Christmas present sorted.
I don't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore. Ball of wine? Nay, you're talking. Yellowtail, Shiraz. That will go nicely.
Not that you're giving us any hints or anything.
Well, I'm
That's
giving you any hint at all. No, but that one will do nicely. Or a Prosecco. If you really want to push the boat out, champagne. But,
I think Leslie's setting our expectations as to what she's looking for, right?
I think so.
I'm just remembering Christmas past and reveling in it. Because there was a short period of time when basically I was able to experience someone else's idea of it. Even though I was still working with animals, I was actually houked out. And basically that's when I actually kneecapped the Archbishop of Monaco with his own pew. But I was made to go to a carol service, and not being very good at wearing skirts or being dressed up and wearing heels, I couldn't figure out how to get off the damn pew without falling over, because I was ducking and diving with everybody because I didn't know what to do. So I was just copying what everybody else was doing. And there was just this guy in front of me. Didn't know who he was. He just kind of sat down there. And it's all on tape because, like, the Prince, he recorded it because he wasn't there. He would record things when he wasn't there. And it was a time to dip. And I kind of thought, how am I going to do this? Because I'd got forward so far by just nodding my head. But it was really going to be a dip. And we were right at the front. And so I decided I was going to try the ladylike thing. Never works when I try these things. I don't know why. I'm so not built for that situation. So I practically put my hand on the pew that I was sitting on, my other hand on just behind him. I kind of thought, I'll swivel my backside round and that'll be fine. The unfortunate thing was that these pews weren't nailed down.
And everybody else had stood up.
Yeah. And basically, as I swiveled and my arse left the seat, my hand went forward very, very fast because the guy had got up also, and the pew hit him in the back of the legs, and down he went prostrate on the floor in front of the 5 priestly persons and the guy in the pulpit with the big boombox video camera. And I was stuck.
Oh dear.
Sounds like something out of Carry On film.
Oh, do you know, Willie, it got better because we had to leave from the front back, and because we were with the family, and we had warned the boss, oh, you know, Leslie doesn't do this. It's not really a good idea to have her anywhere near this kind of thing. Oh no, you've got to go. We ended up down.
I'm guessing you weren't invited back.
Oh God, no.
So it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. I mean, it always works. It was just the fact that basically afterwards we had been invited to go down to whatever it was underneath the crypt type thing with the cheese and wine afterwards, and I met the man that I poleaxed, Archbishop of Monaco.
Did he have a sense of humour?
No,
Oh,
Did he hit you with his crook?
no, he just gave me one of those withering looks, and I thought, well, it's Christmas. You're supposed to be nice to me.
Well, you weren't supposed to knock him out.
I didn't do purpose.
Karma.
But the interesting thing was the time effect of it, because there's a 90-year-old bent over governess sitting at the end of the pew, and she's like this, shaking like she's in an earthquake somewhere. My brother sitting with tears down his face, absolutely puce. And the woman from the bookshop, she fell off the pew at the other side because she was laughing so much. It was
Makes
an absolute
and look at all
Great
those people you made happy.
exactly. I mean, that's a story for years. Like, what, 20, 30 years you get out of that story easily.
Oh yeah, I have done. It's what I
And
use
in
it-
fact,
I use it
what
every
Willie
time.
said
Yes.
about the Carry On movies, they're a great Christmas movie, actually. All those Carry On movies, they're very
Politically incorrect.
they're not PC. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Oh, definitely not.
They wouldn't be made today, basically.
No.
I think somebody tried recently to bring them back.
Carry On Doctor, that was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, Doctor in the House and all that. Yeah, yeah. But it's all
Yes.
it's one of those things that when somebody is trying to invite you in to their tradition, and you haven't got a bloody clue what's going on, it can cause some interesting situations to happen.
So perhaps the thing to remember is, if you're inviting someone into your traditions, to maybe explain to them what your traditions are and what is expected of them.
And don't make them genuflect or anything like that.
And actually, don't expect anything of them. Let them just sit and observe. Let them get comfortable. This is what we do. If you want to participate, great. If you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah.
How many times though have you been at a party and you're sitting minding your own business, being a wallflower, just perfectly happy, and some bugger comes up to you and says, "Come on, get up, smile, it might never happen."
But isn't that a huge thing around Christmas? We're expected to be jolly and be engaging in the party and the life and soul. And I'm going, no.
And just
Okay,
because that
what's my
person comes,
timeline for getting out of here?
yeah, just because that person comes up to you and says, "This is what we're expecting of you," doesn't mean you've got to say yes.
That's right.
No. Usually when somebody says to me, "It might never happen," I usually say, "It just did."
Yeah, we've had a number of deaths in our family around Christmas over the years. And so there's a part of our family that they're not as fond of Christmas for that reason. And you don't expect them to be, like I wouldn't expect them to be, because they're still grieving. It brings up, sort of rips open those old memories, when it wasn't such a great time.
It's true
No.
though. I mean, it's one of those things that people don't tend to realize, that there's a timing situation seasonally, particularly with pets.
Mm.
If your pet has made it over summer, then you think, will they make it to Christmas? If they make it at Christmas, will they make it to Easter? And people kind of tend to do that way. They mark it off in time that way.
Mhm.
But so many times they'll make it over summer, and suddenly round about this time of year, they'll start to go down a hill like nobody's business. And that's very sad, but it's also, you know, the time of year. It's cold, it's dark, their wee bones are probably not happy anymore, and they want to go to sleep. So, you know, fortunately for them, we can help them do that. Can't always do that with people.
I was just going to say that there's some people have the same feelings, but they don't get the help.
Yeah, they don't get the help. We're not allowed to do
That's
that.
Right.
I do a
Yeah.
singing class, with a singing class once a week. And this week, my student came in and said, this song popped into my mind. I'm always with you, and you see everything that I do, and I want to be with you. And it was a hymn. And it was her father's birthday. He would have been 101 this year. He died about 20 years ago. And she said, I felt like this song was him, that there was some reason the song came into my mind, and that I felt this connection to him. So sometimes I think that, we receive those reminders sometimes from those who want us to remember them and want us to remember that they loved us. And coming back to the therapy side of things, if we have that dark feeling in our bodies that, we haven't seen, we can't accept what had happened. We haven't moved past what had happened. We're not moving into a fresh beginning. Then that would be an indicator. If people are dreading Christmas, there might be an indication there that you might need some help around that. Because those who have passed don't want us to be suffering long term, for sure.
No.
No, but it's one of those things that we are primed at this time of year to remember people from Halloween onwards, because that's what Halloween is really about. It's about remembering the ancestors. And it's one of those things that, because traditionally, way back in the time before we were doing what we were doing now, that's when life was shutting down. It was getting ready to be put to bed for the winter time, when we were all coming inwards, and we were all joining it inside, because that was where it was warm. That was where we could, be together to be warm. And that was when we actually decided that, this one's too old, it can go, and we'll furnish the land, we'll be there. There was a cycle going on. We kind of separated the cycles in some ways. And we still have the primer of, we have to remember, this is how we remember. This is when we suddenly have to be all sentimental and remember these things. I do it myself. I remember.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that we have to and we need to. I think it's still a choice.
Yeah, it's still a choice.
For some people, it's the time of year that hits, because there's reminders. There's so and so's not with us for Christmas this year, or so and so didn't make it to Christmas this year, or so there's those things around it. But there's no need to actually actively choose to go into that place if you don't want to.
No, there's not. It's a case of, basically, when people gather, they tend to reminisce. They tend to say, oh, isn't it a shame that there will always be one or two who will say, oh, isn't it a shame that George isn't here? Or, and oh, wasn't it a pity what happened with so and so?
My response is always, well, they are here.
Yeah.
But
they
I
usually
think
are.
I think that it's interesting, though, is that because a lot of us at Christmas, that you'll have people coming together, there'll be stories, there'll be remembrances, there'll be stuff. We never quite know what it will trigger in somebody else.
Yeah.
We could be sentimentally remembering, or I could be remembering my dad, but my sister could be there, remember the same instance, and be there going, oh my God, that was a horrible time for me, because she was in a different place. So I think there is a lot to be said, and it comes back to the whole idea of deserving or karma or getting what we want, is that sensitivity to people's triggers. Means that if somebody just suddenly goes quiet, that we just give them that little space to deal with wherever their head goes, and then come back in. That matters hugely.
We do that. We know how to do that. However, there's this need to, for some people, this need to have a tissue. Are you all right? Is it? And it makes more of a, it makes more of a pattern over it. And
Here, let me pick your scabs for you.
yes, because then I don't have to think about the scabs I want to pick.
But I think COVID and the separations that we've all had during COVID has meant that a lot of people are less practiced in noticing people's signals and knowing how to deal with them. I think some of us have been working online and working in a therapeutic way has meant that we've kept those skills up. But I know the first few times I met people after COVID, I was oversharing, I was over enthusiastic, so all of my kind of baseline personality traits were like on high, and I had to kind of bring myself back to being the sensitive person I've learned to become over time. So there's something to that. I think if people are listening and they're feeling overwhelmed from just the idea of meeting 2 people at the same time, or 3 or 4 people they haven't seen in a while, it can be very hard. And it's worth saying to the people around you that you feel that, so that everyone understands. It's not the same as 5 years ago for most people.
I find that people are more sensitive than they were in terms of, feeling people's energies and stuff, but they're not able to necessarily identify it in the same way. So, the coming into the Christmas season, I know we're doing a thing next week for empaths, like a whole info week, because there's so many people around at Christmas, like you all gather, and then there's all that energy coming at you. And so if you're sensitive, and you may be heightened sensitivity because you're not used to it, it's like we almost build up a resistance to it. And then with the COVID, we've lost that resilience with it. And so, going into Christmas this year, it's going to be important for people to be cognizant of, okay, where are my boundaries? Because my boundaries might be a little different this year than they were before, in order to protect my energy and not feel overwhelmed with all of that. And so energetically, I agree, Aideen. I think it's something that we need to be a little bit aware of this year. I know, like, for us
there's going to be people, because we know some people too, who are shutting themselves away because they are so fearful of it still. It still hangs over them.
But I think there's also the piece where people are shutting themselves away because actually they've realised Christmas with nobody has been fabulous. And they've really enjoyed that time just to sit in their stripy pyjamas and their slippers, completely on their own, watching whatever they want on TV, eating whatever food they want, and not giving a monkey's what anybody else thinks, what anybody else's expectations are. So I guess it's that piece of being aware enough to notice so-and-so is going to be on their own this Christmas. Is it their choice?
Yes.
Because they want it, or is it their choice because they're scared? And it's about taking that step further, just to try and be aware and tuning into people and asking the questions, not in a digging and interrogation way, but asking the questions of what's going on.
There's another one that triggers me, is that, especially when you have a large family group together and somebody says, I'm heading out for a walk. There's a huge difference between somebody saying, I'm heading out for a walk, and would anybody like to come out for a walk with me?
Yeah.
And they say, I'm heading, they want space, let them have it.
Whereas my family, it's a case of, you're going for a walk, I've not got my step count up today, I'm coming too. And before you know it, there's 20 of them going for a walk.
That's, I think that's, and again, it's that same sensitivity that if people have been thrown into this big family situation and they just need that half hour of a breather to decompress on their own, that we need to actually be really listening and encouraging people, be aware, be tuned in. And I think it's linked to this thing of people's skills mightn't be as well developed, or they mightn't be as nuanced as they were last year, because I certainly noticed in Cork, everybody spent, the desire to be having even more parties and even bigger parties. It's huge at the moment. Whereas last year it was okay for people to be staying in or not staying in, or being a little bit nervous or not nervous. That was still there last Christmas. I think this Christmas it's gone, and yet there will be individuals in a very different space. And I think that listening and hearing where they're at matters so much.
And respecting
there's
each
that-
other's wishes.
And respecting boundaries,
Yeah.
all boundaries for everybody.
You're back to that expectation thing. How am I expected to act at Christmas? I'm expected to be cheerful. I'm expected to be jolly. I'm expected to be whatever, right? You say, what should I be doing? Do what you... I nearly swore there. Do what you like. Do what you like. Do what floats your boat. Do whatever makes you happy. You do not have to conform to these expectations. If you don't want to be jolly, don't be jolly. If you don't want to, run up and down, waving tinsel about, right? Fair enough. It's giving yourself permission or allowing yourself to be whatever you want to be. What will make you happy at Christmas? If it's not turkey, it's not champagne or prosecco, or whatever, fine. If it's like a cup of tea and beans and toast, fine. Right? But there's this pressure, as I said before, like we need to do this, we need to do that, we have to do that. Why? Who says? Who wrote the rule book?
Willie, can you come and tell my mum that I'm doing nothing and I'm just going to stay in the house myself, please? Because she won't listen.
Well, I'll do it for a small fee, Angela, of course.
So there's a piece of authenticity that's coming through in that, Willie. Like, how do we be authentic and still, keep those around us happy because they have their own expectations? That's the whole.
Well, the problem is, Tan, is that if you become the humbug, right, like me, occasionally, I do try, right, that you're expected to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you don't achieve that level, people say, what's wrong with him? He's a miserable so-and-so. Right. And they don't kind of tune in, as Mary said, to, well, maybe he's just having a bad day. Or maybe he's remembering all these drunken brawls he had to split up. Or some more horrible things I won't share with you that happened in Christmas. Because it's not all tinsel, it's not all mistletoe and wine, as Cliff Richard would say, because sometimes it's pretty crap.
Oh, somebody had to say it.
Mistletoe and wine, yeah, there we go. But so just be what you want to be. Do what you like. Okay, there are certain rules, like you don't do this and don't do that. I mean, you try and achieve a certain degree of bonhomie, if you like, if you can be bothered. But please yourself. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I went for the T-shirt that says "Bah humbug" on it, and I've got the one that says "All I want for Christmas is food." So people know that I'm going to be over the top grumpy deliberately, just to see if they'll leave me alone. It doesn't work, but they think it's hilarious, so they just play on it more.
Usually works for me.
Oh no, I've been getting Christmas memes for a month already. I've got two particular friends who like to tag me on anything Christmas related as soon as they start seeing Christmas related things, because
like
they
me
know it's going to
sending-
wind me up.
It's a bit like me sending you cats.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of people that send me cats, and when it's Christmas and cats together, it's even worse. But yeah, it's a good job I've got a sense of humour and I don't get upset too quickly.
It's usually it's very much a case of there are a lot of instances where people are saying to you, why don't you want to go out? We've spent 3 years nearly of not being able to do this. How can you not want to do this now? Well, you get kind of used to being in your space. You get kind of used to being able to have that space a little bit more than it was before. And nobody gets into it so easily.
But I think there's
Or
also
I
that
just
piece
go-
of, I was going to say, there's also that piece of the Christmas karma of, do you really want me to answer that question?
Yeah, you see, I've had 2 years of COVID, and
I realised I don't like
I
you.
don't like this, and I don't want to go back. Very clear.
Do you
Not
think-
going
Of course,
back
for
there.
me, it's all about the Christmas music and getting people together. And yeah, so like everybody has a different taste, everyone has a different Christmas wish. And there's so much. It can be very special, especially when we bring it back to the values that it can invoke. For me, peace is a really big Christmas one. If you can be peaceful at all and have a peaceful state of mind, that can be a beautiful feeling at Christmas. And there's a reverence for me because of brought up Catholic, and there's, you know, there's a reverence to that time as well of like a baby being born, and there's from, you know, childhood and Christmas, and like I'm still a big kid, so for me that's still very relevant. Nothing's been able to shake that for me. So I'm going to be in Michigan for Christmas this year, and I'll miss being back in Ireland, and I'll miss, you know, getting my €25 price present from each of my siblings. That's what we, you know, we decide on a little amount, and you know, you get your favorite makeup, or we all ask each other what we want, and we're very practical in that way. But so there's a lot of people will be missing someone at Christmas, or missing being away, and things like that. So I make the most of it. I'm going to put up Christmas decorations for Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law is not happy, but I have an area that I can put up the Christmas decorations a few days beforehand. So I'm looking forward to that, and lights and stuff like that, and glitter, and a little bit of, you know, dressing things up a little differently. That's going to be fun for me.
I think it's you get not Christmas you dare, you get the Christmas what you make of it. Like, you make it if you try and be a kid forever, Aideen. I think that'd be brilliant. I could get that knocked out of me. But it's what you make of it. As I said before, you want to do something, not do something, fine. And it's a kind of internal thing for me, is that, yeah, I do feel quite happy at Christmas. And then we get to Hogmanay, which for those who don't understand, is New Year's Eve, and you raise a toast to absent friends. I've stopped doing that because absent friends, or my young sister died of cancer at age 40. Do I want to be reminded of that? No, not particularly. Right, so forget the absent friends toast, or do it very quickly. But it's what you make of it. Right. I remember vividly as a young police officer, there was the local kind of drunk, right, who slept in doorways and things like that. And a very cold night, and maybe it wasn't Christmas Day, it might have been Christmas Eve. And I said, look, can we get you some accommodation or something like that? He said, no, I'm fine. Absolutely pie-eyed, right? Miraculous, as we say in Scotland. And he said, look, son, every day is Christmas Day for me. And I just stopped, and he staggered off into the distance. And I thought, well, that's a hell of a way to look at life, mate, even though it's through the bottom of a bottle. But it's what you make of it. And if that's what makes him happy, fair enough.
So when we think about it, what's happening is that we're looking for a little bit of magic, a little bit of fairy dust that goes along with the kind of things that we remember as children when it was magic, for many, not all. When there are things that are going on, it's a change of season. It's coming up to a solstice, when the light starts to come back. And that's where the hope comes in. That's where we start to turn our face to the sun and say, welcome back, because we've been waiting for you. And we can wait a little bit longer, knowing that you're coming back and it's going to get warm again. In some cases, like Mary said, it would be good to actually, before you go, are you sure you're okay? Do you need something else? Just take a step back and wait and watch and see, are they just wanting a moment to themselves? And if you do want to go out for a walk at the same time as somebody else, you don't actually have to go in the same direction. Sometimes it can work quite easily when you go out the door together, but go in different paths. And that's where we are. As far as karma, dharma, and the threefold law of what you put out, you get threefold back. It's a case of, with the best intentions, sometimes we get it wrong. With the best intentions, sometimes we get it right. But no matter what your idea of this turn of the year is, I'm going to do a Dave Allen right now and say, have a good one. Be as merry as you would like to be. Be as bah humbug as you want to be. Because celebrate it, and if that's what rocks your boat, go for it. And as Dave Allen would say, may your God go with you. We'll see you in the new year.